Just a kind of a short homily this week, because one of the things about the Archdiocese of Washington is that the Archdiocese of Washington has the impugn for the annual appeal this week. So my homily will be a little shorter, but just a couple of things. One, in the second reading, is that Paul makes a defense of his ministry, and we don't normally think of St. Paul having to make a defense of his ministry, but there were people from Jerusalem, and the people kind of were enamored by their credentials. After all, they're from Jerusalem. Who are you? You're from Tarsus. But they're from Jerusalem. It kind of reminded me of a lady one time who was talking about the priest who was on base at Patuxent Naval Air Station, and they were retired from the military, so they really should have gone to parishes around the area. But instead, she said, well, but we have a Monsignor, okay, fine. But, that's kind of that credential. So what happened was the people there were saying, that Paul is not giving you the total truth, but we have the truth because we're from Jerusalem. So Paul calls them super apostles. Kind of snarkily calls them super apostles, but again, they saw themselves as being somehow greater or better message than St. Paul because they were from Jerusalem. The other thing is in the raising of Peter, is her mother-in-law, his mother-in-law. What it does is that it reminds us of Jesus raising from the dead. It reminds us of that. We see that in the widow of the son of Nain, when Jesus stops the funeral and helps the child up out of the funeral procession. We see that with the raising of the synagogue's daughter, who was sick. The Lord goes to his house, gets touched by the woman who was infirmed for many, many years, heals her, gives her faith, and then goes to the synagogue official and raises the child from the dead. So we think about that. We also think about that those who are healed serves, and it says Peter's mother-in-law served them after she was healed. And I think one of the things that if we've been healed by Christ, if we're continuing to be healed by Christ, then we want to serve Christ and serve him in his ministry. So whether it be in being an usher or being a cantor or being in the choir or doing all kinds of things, we want to serve because we've been healed and we're continuing to be healed. So that's an important part of our Christian life. And then there's always the people. Peter says when Jesus goes off to pray that everybody's looking for you, and there's always this desire on the part of the apostles to stay in Jerusalem, to build up a ministry in Jerusalem. After all, they're doing such wonderful things, after Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection. But Jesus doesn't want them to stay in Jerusalem. Jesus gave them what their mission was, which was to go off to all the nations. Jesus showed that himself. When there were people who wanted him to stay, he would stay just maybe a few days and then go off and do other things. So again, the apostles were not there to build up a ministry in Jerusalem, but to go out to all the nations and to proclaim God's message. Thanks, and God bless.